All right, welcome into a new edition of Carps Corner. Thank you for bearing with us during the holidays. Been on a show for a couple days here. Had Christmas going on. A lot of things going on there. Got a chance to watch a lot of great bowl games, a lot of football, a lot of NFL, a lot of college, a lot of good things. So, bunch of stuff there to be able to digest and fully appreciate. So, excited here to be in game week for the Peach Bowl. Peach Bowl is going to be New Year's Eve, going to be on Saturday. That's going to be not great. I'm not a big fan of that, and I've talked about it a lot. I don't enjoy the semifinals being on New Year's Eve, but you know what? This is what the higher power in college football believed it should have happened. I know there's a lot of people against it, but you know what? You'll take what you get for now, because at least Ohio State is going to ultimately be playing in the CFP. And so let's look a little bit at Ohio State's schedule. They flew down to Georgia on Christmas afternoon. Let everybody go home for a couple days, finished up their practice. But at that point, basically, Hay was in the barn. The game plan was the game plan. Whatever they saw, whatever they liked, they put in. What they didn't like, begin to throw out. And then you go into like a normal game week. So you fly out on a Sunday, which was Christmas. Get there Monday, light practice, settle in, get everybody going. And then you get to go into your normal game week, because the fact that the game is on a Saturday works out pretty stinking well from just a sheer setup to where your normal Tuesday practice is on a Tuesday, Wednesday practice on a Wednesday, Thursday practice on a Thursday. Like I said, you had the Monday bonus day. Friday is going to be your walkthrough, and Saturday is the game. And so I'll be heading down to Atlanta. I'm not going to stay for the game. After the loss to Michigan, I wiped CFP dreams from my mind. Thought, you know what, I'm going to stay here, enjoy some time with the family over New Year's and the holiday, and try to relax and kick back, kind of enjoy that. Well, as fate would have it, obviously the world opened up and things happened for the Buckeyes. Didn't want to change the fact they go to the Peach Bowl. It's nice. I'm going to head down Wednesday afternoon, get there Wednesday night, do some work with XM during the media day, so you get a chance to talk to the guys, cover them, see what's going on, be back on a plane, be back here Thursday evening, enjoy some stuff with the kids, relax a little on Friday, and then ultimately be geared up for that game on Saturday and what is going to be New Year's Eve. So that is going to be great, but that is kind of the schedule. That's kind of the agenda for how the team kind of goes through it and structures, everything that's going on. Talk a little bit about this, as we kind of dive into things. Recruiting, the early signing period was last week, and Ohio State had a good class, not a great class. Top 5 in the composite rankings. Some people have them 6, 7, somewhere right around there. Not bad by any stretch, but for Ohio State, when you're trying to win everything, want to be like the top 1, 2, or 3, it's not necessarily quite as good as you would like to be. So that was a little bit frustrating, I think, for some people as we saw that. And so as we get into the recruiting and trying to figure out exactly, what had happened to it and why it went the way it did, I think the important reality now for Ohio State recruiting is, they've got to get in the game as far as NIL and everything that's going on. Ohio State's got a ton of great things to also be able to offer players, but where we're at right now, it's not an advantageous situation for NIL and bringing players in. And, I want to get to some stuff here before we ultimately get to the mailbag and I get to some of my key matchups and some other things. But, it goes, Ryan Day, I'll throw this up here. My guy, Jay Buck, said this, and because Ryan Day came out and he basically said, hey, things have changed on the recruiting trail, but in the end, it comes down to relationships. That's it. They want guys who ultimately want to be Buckeyes. And I understand it. That's a big part of it. And Jay Book was like, I don't know if that's the place, if that's true anymore. The money is now playing a significant role. And I think that that's accurate, because when you start talking about dollar amounts that are as big as what they are, when people are getting, 2 comma situations, and a signing bonus and a per year situation, that's a lot. I know we got the game coming up, but this matters a bunch, because this matters for future games. To be able to get back to the CFB, to be able to compete and go do the things that you need to do, you have to have the pipeline of players. And that's going to be massive, and it's going to ultimately be huge. And so then, you moving the story along and seeing where everything's going. We'll throw this up, and Cardell Jones tweet this out. Ron James put this in the era of NIL. Is the Ohio State athletic department too large? And he has a video that dives in and talks about all the different sports, the infrastructure, the fact that Ohio State is the largest compliance department that you're going to find, the fact that Gene Smith, the AD, really hasn't been a massive proponent. He came out and said, hey, we need to start getting behind some of these collectives, but he didn't want it to do it at the expense of the athletic department. But the reality is the Ohio State football program funds basically the entire athletic department through TV deals, through the stadium revenue. People are donating. The reason they donate for the large part is due to Ohio State football. And so he said, no personal shot at Gene or any other athletic department around the country. But in the last 30 seconds of this is spot on. Be a great way to solve NIL for everyone. Don't shoot the messenger. And it talks about, everybody giving a little bit, fans giving a bit, obviously boosters stepping up to the table, and everything ultimately changing. But that's a little bit of the dilemma that Ohio State's facing right now, because it's a different animal than what it was before. And so to get these elite players, everyone loves, hey, Penn State game, JT Tuimoloau came out, played great, and basically kind of won the game for Ohio State. You don't get a player like that now unless you're in the NIL game. And you don't retain them unless you're in the NIL game. And that's another big piece of it. And so those guys that people say, we don't care, we don't need the national recruits, I want people that want to be Buckeyes. Yeah, you can have guys who ultimately want to be Buckeyes, but it has to be close. You don't want to bring guys in that are the last dollar bidder, that are going for the highest bidder, that are out there trying to get everything they can. Believe me, it's their right, but I don't know if those are the guys you want on your team. The reality is with that is that you've got to at least be in the ballpark. You got to be close. And so Ohio State needs to get there. They need to find a way to do it, because as you throw this up, and this comes from Jimbo Fisher, who, if you want to call him the canary in the coal mine or whatever, I mean, they put together this class last year that was supposed to be unbelievably rated high and all-time generational class. Well, they go win 5 games, and heck, they got a bunch of dudes in the portal this year. But he said, I knew eventually there'd be a pay for play. I did not know it would be. I didn't know the NIL would come about. The problem with all of it is that there is no consistency in the rules. And when you get into the transfer portal, there is so much tampering going on. It's utterly ridiculous. It's a joke. It's an absolute joke. We're only in college football. And even the NFL, like, you get caught tampering in the NFL, man, you get in trouble. There's big fines. They're going to punish you in a big way. And, so that's the other element of it. Like college, like the NFL is far more restrictive. And we'll get into this in the offseason about trying to solve this and what ultimately needs to be done and how it can be solved. But then, I saw this, and I was involved. I got a chance to meet with this young man. And Lincoln Kienholz, great young dude, quarterback out of South Dakota, highly recruited guy, was committed to Washington. I'll throw this up. Lincoln Kienholz said that Washington has a better NIL than Ohio State. Wow, Washington. And that's someone tweets at me, Sully. He's like, B-Carp, this is the discussion we should be having. Washington, better NIL? Not Bama, Texas, Clemson, Georgia, Washington. All it is going to take is 3 years, the Buckeyes slipping to lose their cachet. And that's real. Now, Lincoln came here. Came because you want to be developed by Ryan Day, and you have elite receivers, but it's real hard to continue to do that. And you can't start sliding from top 3 in recruiting to then somewhere in 5 to 8. And next thing you know, you're 10 to 13. And so the NIL space is massive. And maybe they get this thing corrected. I hope they do. They have a new NCAA commissioner coming in who's the former governor of Massachusetts. So hopefully there'll be some legislation around this. I'm not holding my breath. I'm not going to sit here and think that that's going to be the solution, but I think that could be part of it. But that's all part of the reality of what we're dealing with right now. So I want to talk a little bit now before we get to some of the mailbag, some of the matchups, some of the keys of the game. I talked before about the safeties and the tight ends. You have Brock Bowers, 19. You have Darrell Washington, 00. Darrell Washington, massive human being, obviously, 6'7", 6'8", like 270 pounds. I think a guy like Sonny Styles would be perfect to be able to match up on him, because he might be the only guy that has the physical attributes to get close with his athleticism and be able to take him away. But in doing that, you're going to want to pack the middle of the field to take those guys away with your safeties and linebackers. But when you do that, What are you giving up? Well, here comes the next matchup, because it's going to then be on the defensive backs to slow down the receivers. Ladd McConkey, Kearis Jackson, talented dudes. McConkey's been hurt. I think he's going to be back. He should be fine for the game. He was out, missed some time, but guys get healthy over a couple week stretch for the bowl. So listen, the DBs are going to be on islands again. Now you're going to try to get them some help. But if you look at the guys that have been beating teams, I mean, it's really been Bowers is the guy that they focus on. And so he's your main focus. So someone's got to take the heat. And so it's going to be, your Cam Brown, on the outside. Whether you get Jair Brown in there, you get some of the younger dudes, playing. But it's going to be, Denzel Burke. I mean, there's going to be guys out there that are going, Jordan Hancock, they've got to step up and play. J.K. Johnson, like these dudes, whoever is on the field has to step up and make plays. And you can't have missed tackles. You can't lose eye control if you're in zero coverage. And I'm guessing Jim Knowles will rotate it a little bit more. But those guys have the ability to go out and do it. They have to execute and they have to perform and they have to go play at a high level. That's the reality of it. No ands, ifs, or buts. That is what has to happen. And so when you take away their aces inside, backs and tight ends, which Ohio State's done a really good job of. Now, maybe they haven't seen guys to this caliber, but those are what they're going to want to take away. The heat has to go somewhere else, and you want to force them to beat you left-handed. And Ohio State should have the defensive backs, the corners, to be able to take care of this. And so those guys have got to play big, and that is one of the other areas that I'm looking at. We talked a lot about, Georgia's defensive line up front and Ohio State's offensive line. Heck, every one of Ohio State's offensive linemen was an all Big Ten player. They should be able to handle Jalen Carter and those dudes up there. I mean, they're going to need to establish the run, but we'll get into a little bit. Their receivers, though, to big play it and make sure that you're gobbling up chunks of yardage. It's going to have to be a day. It's going to have to be an epic day, and they have it in them. They have the ability to get it done. Ryan Day and CJ Stroud have lost 3 games over the last 2 years. 1 to Oregon, 2 to team up north. Like, this is a redemption game, and Ryan Day has talked about it. He talked about his presser. I'm sure he'll bring it up, again at media day, and some of the players will. This new lease on life, this opportunity that they have, and ultimately what they're able to do. They've got some big things, and it's going to come down a little bit to the offense and the ability to have some success and to go out there and achieve what they need to. But here's the reality. We talk about the defense, and we'll throw this up here. I mean, Ohio State is 89-0 since 2014 when they score 30-plus points. That doesn't mean they've lost. They've lost, obviously, games they've given up more than 30. You saw that against Michigan. But when they score over 30, they win, because when you're scoring over 30, that means you're getting the ball back. You're doing some good things. You're moving the football, and that's big. And so then I see this, and I throw this up with CJ Stroud. I definitely think the best football team, I definitely think that the best football team is a pissed off football team. It's the Buckeyes versus the world. It's always been like that, but it's a little stronger this year. And I hope that CJ understands that, and I hope that he embraces it, because this is the key to me. My dad pointed this out. There's other people that have said it. They've got these arbitrary numbers out there. I initially said 40 to 50 yards. My dad said 4 first downs. I've heard people say, 4 or 5 times, whatever it might be. CJ Stroud's going to have opportunities to run the football. No one's asking him to go out there, and run that thing around and be reckless and, be like Jalen Hurts, Cam Newton doing that stuff. Mitchell Trubisky, you don't need to be that guy, but there will be opportunities to run it. Like I said, my dad said he needs to run for 4 first downs. That's what he told me. My dad's a pretty smart dude when it comes to, football and games and how they go. He coached high school for a long time, played in the NFL. I mean, the guy, old adage, he's forgotten more football than probably most people I know. So he said 4 times. I said 40 to 50 yards, because I think when he pulls it down, you'll be getting 12 to 14, some chunks. You have 3 chunks in a game. Those are chain movers. Those are keeps drives alive, and they're backbreakers to the defense. Heard someone say just if he runs it 4 or 5 times, that'll be enough to keep him honest, to where they're picking up first downs, and now the coverage is going to open up in front of you. So you're going to have those opportunities. they're going to be there, and they should be there in a pretty big and significant way. And so I understand exactly what's going on, and I don't want him to go out there, believe me, and go run it all the time. As we throw this up, there are good players in this game. You see right here, top 10, top graded players by Pro Football Focus in the playoff. Jalen Carter, number 1. Donovan Edwards, 2. But then you have Marvin Harrison, Tommy Eichenberg, Mayan Williams, really good. Stetson Bennett, he's on there. He's efficient. No one likes to talk to him. Then you got Ronnie Hickman, who's been a great tackler, who's been a really good safety. Darnell Washington, the tight end for Georgia, I brought it up. And then Zach Harrison, who I've been super pumped up for and proud of this year, who's come back and had a really, really impressive season. And so there's opportunities for those guys. There's a lot of talent around them. And so CJ doesn't have to carry this team, but he does have to be the best player on the field. And he's got that ability in him. That's why he went to New York. That's why he's been a Heisman candidate. And this would be an unbelievable exclamation point in his career to be able to provide him another opportunity. But this is the opportunity that is faced in front of him. So whether it's 4 first downs, running it 4 or 5 times, getting 40 to 50 yards on the ground, which sounds like a lot, but when you're running it like that, I mean, the yards will come in bunches. He'll have the opportunity to gobble some of that up, and I think that there's going to be opportunities there. Some mailbag questions from late last week. Bobby, please tell me the Buckeyes are actually working on the NIL situation. I believe that they are. I know the coaching staff has been a little frustrated. I know they're working to fix it. And I believe Gene is trying to get that done. The collectives are working, and we're trying to put together some other options, finding a way to get it done. And the question was, is Ryan Day too passive for this current NIL landscape? Before NIL, I'd argue his calm and cool approach is fine, but now it seems like you need a whole staff, and the university needs to take more aggressive approach. Well, I think Ryan's wanting to be aggressive. I don't know if he's had the support and the ability to be as aggressive as he ultimately needs to be, because that doesn't fall on the head coach. That more falls on the administration. More on NIL. Everybody's seeing him decommits. And I had this conversation, and people were shredding me on here, upset on Twitter and social media. Buckeyes don't need to donate. And then all of a sudden, the chickens come home to roost a little bit in the NIL. And that's a big deal. Everyone talking about NIL situations, how long is it going to go unregulated? Here's one. Will Hartline get the O coordinator job? And will OSU have to win in a shootout against Georgia? I'll give you my prediction in the next show before the game. I don't know if it has to be a shootout. I mean, they can get stops. Modern day college football is played in the 30s. I think if it gets to the mid-30s, Ohio State's fine. I threw up the graphic 89-0 when they score more than 30 points since 2014. Hartline getting the coordinator job? Possibly. I think there's a good chance. I don't think he necessarily needs it. I know that, Fry came here, from UCLA, Chip Kelly, and I think, there's probably some opportunity for him to get in. Maybe it's a co-coordinator situation where, Fry's involved, Hartline's passing game coordinator. I'm not sure. Calling plays will be a collaborative process, which it always is, usually anyway. But I think Ryan's looking to try to shed off the play calling duty so he can manage the game a little better. Do I think Georgia will single cover Marv, or will they have help around him? They're going to help on Marvin Harrison Jr. He is the best receiver in college football. I know it, you know it, and Kirby Smart definitely knows it. They'll single him some, but they're going to make sure that it's confusing, and they're going to try to take him away, whatever they have to do. How does one start an NIL collective? Well, you could have a LLC for marketing, or you could do a 501c3 where you got to register that with the state and all these different things. So there's a process, some shorter, some longer, but it's not all that difficult. The reality is you just want to make sure whatever NIL things are going, you have the ability to raise money and that people aren't skimming money off the top. That's the big thing that I've been trying to, dive in all these. And Ohio State's collectives are good, but you want to make sure that the money that is being raised is ultimately getting to the players. Heard the coaches say a team that lost is more dangerous, being forced to correct issues. Or if you're winning, you may hide some of them because hasn't cost you a game. What are my thoughts on that? Winning is the great cologne. It is a great concealer. A lot of times you don't really dig in to your faults until they've actually cost you, because you gloss over and said, you know what, maybe we turned the guy free. Maybe we didn't have the right blitz path. Maybe we didn't have this blitz pickup. You know what, maybe you ran the wrong route. And the quarterback bought time, or whatever it might have been. But when it costs you, you look at everything more. You go through with a fine tooth comb, you dig in and try to figure out exactly what's going on. How did it happen? How can you get it fixed? And so, yes, losing forces you to take a hard internal look at those things. Is the Georgia O line as good as Michigan, and can their D line get pressure? Our D line get pressure on Bennett? Yeah, I think they can. I think they'll bring some heat. They'll blitz a little bit. They can get pressure. They got pressure on McCarthy. They're a good offensive line, but I don't think they're anything insurmountable. And there's a way to ultimately go and get it done with all that. So that's the last question I'll throw out there from the mailbag. We'll get some more questions, as I'm sure, leading into the game. I'll give you some of my final keys and final thoughts in the last show and kind of give you the real feel from down around Atlanta when I talk to some of the guys on media day on Thursday morning. So thank you for tuning in. Appreciate the support. Everything going on here for Carps Corner. Like, subscribe, continue to share this thing, and hopefully we'll continue to grow it. And looking forward to New Year's Eve and the Buckeyes taking on the Bulldogs in the Peach Bowl. Thanks.